The sky over Pinebrook was bruised with clouds, swollen and threatening. Rain tapped on car hoods and rooftops like an impatient visitor, and the chill in the air made people hunch into their coats and scurry toward cover. A pair of soaked pigeons flapped away as Lena darted from the crosswalk to the awning of the Pine Street Cafe. Her brown leather boots, worn at the heels, squeaked against the wet pavement. Clutched in her hand was a slim, navy wallet, not hers. Lena, 24, was the kind of woman whose beauty seemed unbothered by the rain. Her chestnut wavy hair stuck slightly to her pale, freckled cheeks. Her deep U-shaped crop top, now damp, clung lightly to her curvy frame beneath a short tan jacket. She glanced at the wallet again. There was no ID visible, just a business card for a bookstore tucked inside a folded receipt. Colin Hart, Heartbound Books, 121, Pine Street. Lena sighed. It must have slipped from someone's table at the cafe. She took a breath and stepped back into the rain, the drops heavier now, falling like whispers with weight. Cut to a quiet bookstore next to the cafe, Heartbound Books. It had that kind of charm people didn't build anymore. The wooden sign above the door creaked in the wind. Inside, the smell of paper and dust, and a faint trace of cinnamon from somewhere long ago. Colin Hart stood behind the counter, flipping through a vintage poetry book with a broken spine. His dark hair was uncombed, his sleeves rolled, revealing ink-stained fingers. He looked up when the bell over the door jingled. Lena stepped in, shaking off droplets. Her jacket clung slightly to her shoulders, her green eyes scanning the room. She was clearly out of place in the worn, quiet universe of this bookstore. Lena, softly, "Hi, are you Colin?" Colin, guarded, eyes narrowing, "Yeah." She stepped forward, holding out the wallet. "Lena, I found this outside the cafe. I saw your card inside. I thought it might be yours." He reached out and took it slowly. Opened it. A pause. "Colin, this isn't mine." There was a strange silence. She blinked. "Lena, oh. I'm sorry. I assumed." "Colin, no. I know whose it is." His voice was unreadable. Something behind his eyes shifted, as if that small navy wallet held more than cards and cash. He closed it carefully, placed it on the counter. Lena, now awkward, tried to smile. "Lena, well, at least it's found." "Colin, you want coffee? Or are you just the type who returns wallets in the rain and disappears?" She blinked, surprised. Was that a joke? "Lena, smiling, I mean. I wasn't planning on staying. But it is freezing out." He gestured toward a little table tucked in the corner, surrounded by old shelves and a stack of forgotten memoirs. "Colin, then sit. I'll make you something warm. I owe you that much." As he turned toward the back room, she sat, glancing around. The place was more than a bookstore. It felt lived in. Like someone had pressed their memories into its walls. And that wallet? Why did it make Colin so quiet? Lena sat at the corner table, her fingertips tracing the rim of an old ceramic cup, steam curling softly from within. The bookstore was warm, dimly lit, filled with the scent of old pages and the quiet ticking of a wall clock that didn't quite keep time. Colin returned from the back carrying a mug for himself. He placed her drink down, black coffee with a cinnamon stick resting gently against the edge. Lena, raising an eyebrow. "Cinnamon? That's surprisingly thoughtful." Colin, sitting opposite her. "My mom used to say cinnamon makes people tell the truth. It lowers their guard." Lena, smirking. "So you're trying to interrogate me now?" "Colin?" Just curious why someone would go through the trouble of returning a wallet in this weather. She sipped slowly, warming her hands against the mug. Lena. Well, maybe I believe in karma. Or maybe I was just bored. Colin, softly, studying her. Or maybe you needed a reason to walk through that door. That landed heavier than he expected. For a moment, neither of them spoke. A gust of wind outside sent a hollow whistle through the bookstore windows. Lena broke the silence. Lena. You said the wallet wasn't yours, but you knew whose it was. Is it someone close? Colin's eyes drifted toward the far side of the room, toward a dusty bookshelf that looked less disturbed than the others. A small framed photo rested there, obscured by shadows. Colin, quietly. My brother. He passed away last winter. Heart condition. He used to stop at that cafe every Tuesday, just before closing. Lena, softening. I'm sorry. Colin, nodding. That wallet, it must have slipped behind the counter or into a bench. I hadn't seen it since he died. Thought it was gone forever. Lena looked down at the cup in her hand, realizing now that what she'd done wasn't so small after all. Lena. Then, maybe I did walk into the right place. He glanced at her, more openly this time. There was a quiet understanding in his expression, an acknowledgement that sometimes the universe worked in strange and delicate ways. Colin? I think my brother would have liked you. Lena, surprised, flattered. Oh? Because I return wallets in the rain. Colin, smiling faintly. No. Because you talk like someone who's been through something and still chooses kindness. That made her pause. Her smile wavered slightly. She glanced down, as if trying to hide the flicker of something personal rising in her chest. Lena, quietly. Maybe we both lost something. The moment lingered between them like a bookmark pressed gently into an old page. Lena sat at the corner table, her fingertips tracing the rim of an old ceramic cup, steam curling softly from within. The bookstore was warm, dimly lit, filled with the scent of old pages and the quiet ticking of a wall clock that didn't quite keep time. Colin returned from the back carrying a mug for himself. He placed her drink down, black coffee with a cinnamon stick resting gently against the edge. Lena, raising an eyebrow. Cinnamon? That's surprisingly thoughtful. Colin, sitting opposite her. My mom used to say cinnamon makes people tell the truth. It lowers their guard. Lena, smirking. So you're trying to interrogate me now? Colin? Just curious why someone would go through the trouble of returning a wallet in this weather. She sipped slowly, warming her hands against the mug. Lena. Well, maybe I believe in karma. Or maybe I was just bored. The warm hush of the bookstore wrapped around them like a blanket. Colin stood slowly, excusing himself with a quiet, "Give me a second," and disappeared into the back shelves. Lena sat, her hands wrapped around her coffee mug, eyes scanning the quiet titles nearby. Her gaze drifted upward, and there it was. A weathered spine with a gold-embossed title she hadn't seen in years, The Garden Beyond the Gate. She stood, drawn to it like a moth to flame. Her fingers brushed the edges of the cover. A soft gasp left her lips. Lena, whispering to herself. This was Mom's favorite. She opened the book gently, revealing yellowed pages and a handwritten dedication inside the front cover. To anyone who's ever waited too long to say something that mattered. Her throat tightened. It was like a voice from the past whispering straight to her. Colin returned, carrying a small wooden box with velvet edges, but stopped short when he saw her holding the book. Colin, softly. You found it. She turned toward him, her voice barely steady. "Lena. This book, it was hers. I haven't seen a copy in over a decade. She read it to me every night when I was little. It was the last thing she held before." Her voice trailed off. Colin stepped closer, placing the wooden box on a nearby table without breaking eye contact. "Colin? Some things have a way of finding us when we need them most." Lena sat again, holding the book gently in her lap. Her fingers moved over the words on the dedication page again and again like she was memorizing the feeling. "Lena," barely audible. "She used to say it was about forgiveness, even when you're the one who walked away." Colin watched her with a stillness that said he knew what that felt like. "Colin? My brother and I hadn't spoken for almost a year before he passed. I kept waiting for the right time. It never came." He sat down again across from her. "No coffee now. Just shared silence." "Lena. Why did you keep his things here?" Colin, nodding toward the back. "He loved books. Helped me build this place. I couldn't get rid of them. It's like the pages still hold echoes." A small tear clung to the edge of Lena's lashes, but she didn't wipe it away. She let it stay, real, honest. "Lena," quietly. "Maybe that's why I came back to town. I think I've been holding echoes too long." They sat like that for a long moment, her with the book, him with the box. Two people with too many yesterdays and maybe one small tomorrow waiting to unfold. The bookstore had quieted even further. The street outside was hushed, the late afternoon sun slanting through the large windows, painting golden shadows across the floor. Lena still held the old book close to her chest, the kind of grip that wasn't just about the object, it was about everything it represented. Her mother. Her childhood. Her guilt. Colin reached out slowly and opened the small wooden box he had placed on the table earlier. The lid creaked faintly as it lifted. Inside was a bundle of letters tied with a deep red ribbon, a photograph worn at the corners, and a folded note that looked much newer than the rest. "Colin, gently. I was going to give you this, even before you found the book." Lena leaned forward, curiosity flickering through the mist of emotion in her eyes. She set the book down, reaching toward the box with trembling fingers. "Lena, what is all this?" Colin picked up the photograph first. He held it up for her to see. It was a faded image of a younger Lena, no older than 12, standing beside her mother in front of a sunflower field. The same laugh she thought she'd forgotten curved in her mother's smile. "Colin? She gave this to my brother the last summer she was here. Said she wanted him to hold onto it in case you ever came back." Lena stared at it, barely breathing. A tear rolled down her cheek before she even realized it. He handed her the bundle of letters next. She didn't open them yet, she just cradled them in her palms like something sacred. "Lena," softly. "These are hers." "Colin?" "Some. And a few from you. One she wrote back but never sent. He kept them all." Lena traced the edges of the ribbon with the tip of her finger. The box felt like a time capsule, like someone had preserved a part of her life she thought had been lost forever. She finally picked up the folded note on top. It had her name written on the front in neat, careful handwriting. It was recent. Different. Lena, brows furrowing. "This isn't hers." Colin nodded solemnly. "Colin?" "No. That one's from me." Lena looked up sharply, surprised. "Colin, gently. I wrote it a month ago. For you, just in case." She slowly unfolded the note, eyes scanning the words. As she read silently, her expression shifted, first confusion, then disbelief, and then something heavier. Her hands trembled slightly by the time she finished. "Lena," voice cracking. "You knew I might come back." "Colin?" "I didn't know. I just hoped." There was a long silence. Then, slowly, Lena placed the note down and sat back. "Lena, you said in this that he blamed himself. That he thought he pushed me away." "Colin?" "He never stopped wondering if he could have done something differently. He wanted you to forgive him." Lena looked away, her voice a whisper. "Lena, I left because I was angry. But I stayed away because I was scared I waited too long." Colin leaned forward, his voice quiet but certain. "Colin? You're here now. That means something." She looked back at him, eyes brimming with regret and a flicker of hope. She nodded faintly, as if finally letting go of the years she'd spent in silence. Lena choked. "Maybe it's not too late to say goodbye properly." He smiled gently, not pushing, just offering a presence. "Colin? There's a small garden out back. It was his favorite spot to read. We kept it just the way he liked." Lena stood slowly, clutching the book in one hand, the letters in the other. "Lena, then maybe I should read to him one last time." The wooden door creaked open, and Lena stepped into the garden behind the bookstore. A gentle breeze stirred the overgrown lavender bushes lining the path. It smelled like sun-warmed earth and old memories. It was just like Colin had said, untouched. A bench beneath a blooming cherry blossom tree. A small wooden table that looked like it hadn't moved in years. And on the far end, a stone plaque nestled in the grass, engraved with her father's name. Thomas Whitaker, a quiet soul with stories untold. Lena stopped when she saw it. The sight of his name in stone hit harder than she'd expected. Her knees nearly buckled beneath the weight of it all, and she slowly lowered herself onto the bench. Colin didn't speak. He stayed back near the doorway, giving her space, knowing some moments needed silence more than comfort. Lena opened the old book, the one she'd found, the one she used to read with her dad on late Saturday nights in the bookstore, when the world felt simple. She flipped to the chapter they never finished. Her voice was soft. Unsteady. Lena, reading aloud. The boy returned to the orchard each day, even after the sun forgot his name. Because some places, some people, become maps back to the parts of ourselves we didn't know were lost. Her voice caught. She looked up at the plaque, her lips quivering. Lena, you always said stories were doors. I didn't understand it then. But I do now. She looked at the letters still tied with the red ribbon beside her. Lena, tearfully. I'm sorry it took me so long. I should have come back. I just didn't know how to face the silence. The wind stirred the pages of the book as if answering her. She paused, then untied the ribbon slowly and pulled out one letter, one she'd written as a teenager. She read a few lines silently and smiled through the tears. Lena, you kept them all, huh? Even the one where I said I never forgive you for forgetting my piano recital. Her laugh was watery. Soft. But real. She turned and looked back at Colin, who hadn't moved. His arms were folded, gaze lowered respectfully. Lena, calling gently. You can come sit. He hesitated for a moment, then joined her on the bench. Not too close. Just close enough. She handed him one of the letters. One written by her father. Lena, would you read it to me? I don't think I can do it without crying. Colin took it gently, unfolding the old paper. He began reading in a quiet, steady voice. Colin, reading. Dear Lena, if you're reading this, it means you've found your way home, and I hope that wherever you've been, life has shown you both wonder and grace. I never stopped loving you, and I never stopped waiting. Lena lowered her head into her hands, sobbing softly as Colin read on. There was no rush. No sound but the wind and his voice. It was, finally, the goodbye she never got. And somehow, also the hello she needed most. Evening shadows began to stretch across the garden as the sun dipped lower in the sky. The cherry blossoms fluttered in the breeze, some petals landing softly on Lena's shoulders. Her face was still damp, but her eyes were calmer now, less storm, more ocean tide. Colin folded the letter with care and placed it back into the box. He didn't speak. The moment didn't need fixing, it needed to breathe. Lena stared at the box for a long time. Lena, softly. He always believed in closure. Not for him. For others. That's why he wrote to people who'd left. Even if they never replied. She turned the last few envelopes over slowly, her fingers trembling. Near the bottom of the stack, something caught her attention. A letter addressed not to her, but to the future reader. She opened it slowly. Her breath caught. Lena, reading. To the person holding this letter, maybe you're my daughter, maybe a stranger, maybe someone who wandered in like I always hoped someone would. This bookstore has more than stories on its shelves. It has ghosts, laughter, secrets, and heartbeats written into its walls. Please don't let it fade. She looked at Colin, her voice tight with disbelief. Lena. He wasn't just waiting for me. He was waiting for anyone who cared. Anyone who might keep this place alive. She leaned back on the bench, watching the sky turn a softer blue. Lena, quietly. I always thought I'd sell the place. Too many memories. Too much weight. But maybe it's not just mine. Maybe it was always meant to be shared. Colin hesitated, then finally asked the question that had been hovering all day. Colin? Would you stay? Not just tonight. I mean, stay and rebuild it. Reopen it. Lena looked at him, really looked at him. His face wasn't just familiar now. It was comforting. Lena. I'm scared I won't know how. Colin, gently. You don't have to know everything. You just have to show up. She smiled. It was the smallest, saddest, and most hopeful smile he'd ever seen. Lena, half laughing. You're a lot like him, you know. Saying things that sound simple but hit deep. Colin shrugged, modest. Colin? Maybe I just read too many of his letters. She laughed again, and this time it didn't end in tears. She looked at the bookstore's back in trance, the paint peeling but proud. Lena. If I stay, it's not to honor the past. It's to give it a future. They stood together. And for the first time in years, Lena didn't feel alone in that garden. Or in her grief. The next morning came not with sorrow, but a sense of quiet clarity. A golden sunrise washed over the small town. The bell above the bookstore's front door jingled faintly, not because someone entered, but because Lena pushed it open from the inside for the first time in years. She held a box of cleaning supplies in one arm and a small, folded sign in the other. The air inside smelled like dust, old paper, and something else, something sacred. Colin stood behind her, holding coffee for both of them. Lena, smiling faintly. He said this door should always be open. Even if just for one person a day. Colin? One person is enough. If it's the right one. She turned, looking at him, then nodded. They moved together like partners, not rushed, not clumsy. There was harmony between their silence and small tasks, brushing off the shelves, folding blankets for the reading nook, unwrapping old framed photographs that had been covered in linen. One photo showed Lena as a child sitting on her father's shoulders, both laughing at something outside the frame. She stared at it for a long time before gently placing it on the counter. Then, she pulled out a notebook, her father's last one, the one filled with blank pages. Lena. I think he left this empty on purpose. Like he knew someone else would need to write the next part. She placed it on the reading table beside a worn-out copy of The Little Prince, his favorite. Colin moved toward the display window and pulled the curtain back. Morning light streamed through the glass. Outside, the town seemed to blink awake. Suddenly, the bell rang again. They looked toward the door. A young girl, maybe 12, peeked in shyly. Young girl. Is this place open? Lena smiled, genuinely, warmly, the way her father used to smile. Lena. It is now. The girl stepped inside, eyes wide as she scanned the shelves. Lena and Colin shared a glance. Something passed between them, something that felt like peace. Colin, whispering. He'd be proud. Lena, nodding, eyes misty. Yeah. I think he already was. The camera pans wide, through the front glass, across the dusty town street, capturing a small store lit with morning sun, two souls finding meaning again, and one young visitor discovering a place where stories still lived. A handwritten sign hangs now on the door. Open hearts, open pages. And for the first time in a very long time, the bookstore wasn't a memory. It was home. In a world of noise, sometimes it's a quiet story that changes everything.
If you believe in the power of compassion, resilience and human connection, be sure to subscribe to the Robby Stories and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story that could change your day or even your life. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and remember, some stories don't just entertain, they heal.